Hi everybody, we've now got 66 people in. There's plenty more people tuning in. We'll start right now. It's 1 o'clock. It's just changed. So 2 seconds, I'll share my screen and we'll begin the event. Enjoy.
Hi, my name is Carmi. I am a pole acrobat, also known as an aerial acrobat, and today I'll be doing some antenna acrobatics. I love dancing, I love being creative. This is an antenna made to go out on the seas. You can put it on boats, you can put it on yachts. And today I'll prove to you that the antenna is so strong, you can have somebody dance on it.
Got another video for you as well.
The pointing ripple. Marine connectivity has never looked this good. This amazing antenna array is twice as fast, giving you the freedom to go make a splash. It has a unique hinge design for easy installation of most 5G routers, so that you can share all of your family fun with superior and reliable connectivity. You can also send large data files without fear of disruption or disconnection. Keep large amounts of users connected with multiple data streams. With up to 16 by 16 or 8 by 8 MIMO cross-polarized antennas. Make sure to keep your followers up to date with all of those beautiful holiday pictures. It's also foam-filled and weatherproof, meaning dependable connection for accurate and timely information when you need it the most. Stay up to date and informed about what's happening back at the office, even while you travel. It even has a uniquely designed heatsink to keep your routers cool, meaning that you will still be able to upload those amazing summer memories to the cloud. So it doesn't matter what you transport or where you're going. With the Ripple, you can confidently lose sight of the shore. Poynting, beyond a connected life.
And we have one more before we begin. Number 3.
Become part of the marine antenna phenomenon. The Poynting Wave Hunter. A multi-MIMO antenna array with cross-polarized 24 by 24 MIMO. This configuration of high-quality directional antennas creates a perfect omnidirectional radiation pattern. This future-proof solution includes safe housing for up to 6 5G routers. With both high gain and high speed, you can tell how the Wave Hunter is the future of marine antennas. The Wave Hunter by Poynting, taking you beyond a connected life.
All right, I'm loving the music on those videos. It's really cool. So welcome everybody. We got plenty of people online. I'm also now told the chat box is active, so we can now use that. If someone can test that, that would be absolutely great. So let's introduce the event. Welcome to the Maritime Connectivity Summit, sponsored by Poynting. We've got some introductions to do and an overview of the event, and then we'll get straight into it with all the speakers that we have with us today. So I'm your host, your master of ceremonies. My name is Ben Taylor. I'm positioned as a reporter, a voice of the industry, specializing in maritime. And I'm also part of a video production company that specializes in B2B video content for your marketing campaigns. And so I'll be kind of directing things. And this summit is put on by, sponsored by Poynting, really because there's so much happening in the connectivity, cybersecurity space. There's lots of disruptive new technologies available, lots of challenges for the companies to face, but it's also bringing a lot of opportunity. And so today we're trying to identify that and communicate it to everybody online with us. So the structure of the event is pretty simple, to be honest. So as we go through today, we'll have various speakers. We're going to start by focusing on the topics of IT and OT so cybersecurity and how we go about that today on our vessels and the various risks that we need to be aware of. And then the second panel will be focusing on 4G and 5G connectivity on vessels, looking at SIM cards, routers, and of course, antennas. Poynting will be speaking about the antennas, of course. And then we've got a third panel just after a 5-minute break. So there will be an opportunity to have some coffee. We are really aware it's quite a long webinar, but that'll be your opportunity to do that. We'll then be hearing all about really the pinnacle of this event. Is about real world problems, real solutions that we can bring to market. We've got some very well-known industry professionals coming on to talk about that. Let me pass you over to John from Poynting to introduce himself as well as Poynting as a company, and then we'll get going. So John, if you'd like to take the stage, now's your chance.
Thank you very much, Ben. Well, welcome to the Poynting's Maritime Connectivity Summit. Today, we will dive into the fascinating world of connectivity, where 5G technology bridges the gaps and brings people together. Whether you're a seasoned pro or just curious about the latest trends, this webinar promises insights, discussions, and practical tips. For those who are not familiar yet with Poynting antennas, we are a South African antenna manufacturer born in 2001. We are specialized in creating, developing, and manufacturing wideband 4G and 5G antenna, as well as Wi-Fi antennas. In the beginning, military and defense antennas were manufactured alongside commercial antennas and all sold under the same brand, Poynting antennas. Today, the two lines of products, military and defense, and commercial products have part ways and are separate companies. But having our roots in the military and defense environment really shaped who we are and what we do. Our only focus is to make wireless connections to perform in a more stable, reliable, and consistent manner. We do this for 5 different markets, but today we will focus on the maritime and marine market only. We designed our first maritime antenna in 2015 and almost 10 years ago, and it has been a beautiful ride so far. Together with our partners, our journey in the maritime world has been one of learning, growth, and success, and I want to thank you for that. In the last few years, we have sold thousands of maritime antennas all over the world. Out of all of those, the ones that makes us the happiest are, of course, when the customers come back to upgrade their existing Poynting antennas with the new ones, where they want to expand their deployments, reassuring us that we are taking the right steps. Today, our expert speakers will unravel topics like 5G, cybersecurity, and seamless network experiences. Get ready for our speakers and explore the future of connectivity. Thanks again for joining. And now I will hand over to Ben.
Okay, super. Thank you very much, John. I can see the chat is now active. That's fantastic. We're going to be trying to keep that as active as possible so that you get the most value out of this webinar that we possibly can. Please use your LinkedIn profiles if you want to connect, exchange contact details. That's the easiest way to go about doing it. Let's get on with our first talk. So we've got Jasper, who's going to take us through digital innovations and challenges in maritime. And we're going to be covering what is said to be the Maritime 4.0 security infrastructure solution. Now, throughout this talk, please use the question and answer button to submit your questions as you think of them. Let's get loads of the questions in so that we can ask Jasper at the end of his talk to cover the things that you really, really want to hear about. That'd be really good. So Jasper, I will pass over to yourself just after I introduce the company, which is Fortinet. So Fortinet makes possible a digital world that can always be trusted through its mission to protect people, devices, and data everywhere. And this is why the world's largest enterprises and service providers and government organizations choose Fortinet to securely accelerate their digital journey. Jasper is the business development manager specializing in operational technology, boasting 6 years of experience in the maritime industry with over 15 years in cybersecurity. So Jasper, take the stage, go for it. The floor is yours.
Yes, Ben, thank you. And honestly, I saw video number 1. I was never aware that a sexy dance pole was in relationship to pointing. So that's good for me to understand. It was fabulous. But thank you for your introduction, Ben. I will share my slides, as agreed. So what you say, I'm working now for Fortinet for 6 years, I think. In the last 6 years, I did a lot of projects in the maritime sector, and I saw a lot of challenges there right away. So I want to present to you in these 50 minutes some challenges is what we see in the last couple of years about cybersecurity. And for the people that not know Fortinet, as you already mentioned, we are one of the biggest cybersecurity organizations, I think globally, with a special focus on OT and the maritime sector. Let's share my slides. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, you're good, Jasper.
Good. So I think just as a starting point, I think for everybody in the maritime sector, it's really interesting and we should know that we have a digital transformation at this moment. We see a lot of industry 4.0 technologies coming at us. What does it mean is that we see a lot of changes like connecting cyber physical systems nowadays, Internet of Things, smart networks, and it's all about enhancing the business, like the technology advancements, like data analytics, or just predictive maintenance we see as a cost reduction, or from a customer expectation to real time get the tracking of your shipment now right away. And can you imagine that if you want to achieve these kind of enhancements, you should connect the IT from ship to shore. It's really important to do it on a safe and secure manner. And I think if we use those challenges, I think there are lots of new things are coming up in a couple of years. And I think if we dive into the challenges and what I saw in the last 12 years is these topics you see on the screen. A lot of IT and OT converges nowadays. We want to get all the information from the ship to shore, to use that big data to win an RFP or just being better than your competition. Predictive maintenance when you need to change something on board of a ship, over oil rig in the maritime sector. I think also everybody agrees that nowadays we have a lot of regulations coming up to our heads. So for example, when I was just starting in the maritime sector, we saw the IMO, I think it was 2021 in that day that was saying, okay, we should do something about cybersecurity. It's really important to focus on that point. More on that later. And you see other companies and other other organizations are just looking to enhance the cybersecurity and build a really good ecosystem that is not complex enough. And the last point I will stand in the next slides is the internet connectivity. So we have Iridium, free broadband, VSAT, 5G, 3G, 4G, Starlink, a lot of internet connectivity to manage. And how can you do that? So I think it's a really good story what we can do for our customers in the latest years, and I will show you right away. If we talk about the regulations, besides the IMO, I think everybody should be aware there are new things popping up and coming to us from a global and maritime perspective. So if we dive into, for example, the IX E26, 27, it's really good to understand that since this year, new ships should be focusing on cybersecurity. E26 is really focusing on, okay, how cyber resilience is in act of the ship. And they use a kind of framework. It's called the NIST Cybersecurity Framework. It's a framework that you can use to protect your ship. But the other hand is, if you dive into the IX E27, that's more about cyber resilience on board on ships and protecting that equipment. And it's totally different between the E26 and 27. It's really good to understand the difference between those two. And if we dive into that E27, it's really interesting. They use the framework or the best practice of the EEC 62443. And yes, in this 15 minutes, I can't explain how it works, but if you have some questions in the future, just contact me. I can help you out with this matter. And also the NIS2 for the good big organizations about the critical infrastructure in European sector. As you can see, a lot of regulations are popping to us, and we need to do something about it. So I just picked on some best practices we see at our customers in the last couple of years. So one of the best practices is that based on the multiple WAN links you see on the left side, you see the familiar connectivities. Well, you see that it is really important that you can steer based on, as you can see on the right side, the cheapest link with the best performance in that matter when you are deep on the sea. And it's more interesting also that you have the ability to select also that application that needs to be steering over the best internet line, maybe for a specific user group. And this is one of the things we see nowadays in Holland as one of the best practices in each maritime sector project. For example, a customer with 250 vessels to monitor and manage, this is the way to go. But then also on a secure way, not only connectivity, but if you have the connectivity to the internet, you want to secure your vessels in a securely way. And that is also now applicable for the superyacht industry we see in the Netherlands. One of the best practices I want to share with you is the complexity I mentioned in one of the first slides. I think it's not us, but also Gartner. Gartner is a really big organization that can give advice to organizations globally around the globe. And what they are now predicting or presenting is that stop using point products. You can't managing all those point products as we did in a couple of 15 years back. You don't have the manpower to do it. You don't have the knowledge anyway to do it. So on the left side, we have a silo approach, the best of breed approach, and that is something we did in the past. And what we now see is that we are still moving in a new role as a cybersecurity platform approach. Choose one of the vendors that can help you on the vessels to synchronize management, reduce costs, and have at least not more than 4 platforms to manage instead of 20. And you can find all those information also on the Gartner website. It's a really strong strategy nowadays everybody is choosing. And how does it look as we dive into the security of a vessel, for example, or a superyacht? It is that we or other companies are deploying now a central management of firewalls, switches, APs in a central way for 100 vessels or a fleet to manage. It will really help you out to reduce the cost and reduce the complexity. One of the other best practices, of course, when we dive into the regulations is that you want to show that you are having visibility. that you are securing the network, and that you segment the network. And it's really important that you have all the measures, all the technology to do it also for the OT environment. So when I speak to my customers, they don't have the insight, they don't have the ability to dive into those applications and all those devices to recognize. And I think it's really important to choose a platform that gives you all the power and knowledge to have that insight. So for example, what we know nowadays is when you use our firewalls and implement it, we are able to investigate and detect all the devices that are in your network. So you are really in control of what's happening on your vessel or what's happening on your superyacht. I think that's one of the best practices nowadays if you follow those regulations like the E27 based on the EEC 62443. And one of the other things is how beautiful it should be if you are also able to not only investigate all the applications on a cybersecurity perspective in the IT, but also the traffic from your OT environment, like Modbus traffic, botnet traffic. This is specifically for the biggest organizations around the globe. You need to have control of all the applications you have running on your network. And combine this in a really beautiful presentation that you have visibility and it's kind of auditability on your OT side and IT side in one report that will give you a lot of strength and a lot of comfort in the future. I think it's really important. I think this is a really strong strategy we see now in the Netherlands, and basically it comes back to a really broad network we can provide for all the customers globally in the world. And it is really important to find a way to have an integration between all those equipment you have on board and a kind of automated approach to efficiency operations. I think this is just a really fast snap about what we see, the differences, the challenges, and if there are some questions, please contact me and I can help you out. Ben? You are on mute. Yes.
Yeah, I'm on it. So Jasper, let's encourage everybody to, in the chat box or the Q&A, to submit their questions. I've got a few here to get us going, but do engage with us because it will get the most out of this event and Jasper's expertise. So just some that I'm particularly curious about, what types of issues have actually pushed you to develop this 4.0 security infrastructure? What type of challenges take place that this really is designed for?
Well, the issues we had is that a lot of organizations came from a network perspective, like having routers without any inspection. So you have just for connectivity a solution, but globally and also from a business perspective, you want to have control of your network. So you need to find ways to get in control of all those traffic applications. And I think that is the biggest step we saw in the last 6 years, to have no inspection, no visibility, no control, and now moving to a kind of new infrastructure with a lot of insights. That's one of the best practices I saw as how to solve that problem.
Okay, and you talked quite a lot about larger organizations. Is this perfectly applicable on individual vessels, individual superyachts, things like that, as well as large fleets?
Yeah,
we see it in commercial maritime.
Yeah, we see nowadays also that large superyacht organizations here in the Netherlands, we have a couple of really big organizations that build superyachts, and basically they are, it's mandatory to follow those new rules in the new ship industry. So the new ships should show that they could be in control, like the E26 and the E27, the new regulations. So a lot of organizations here that build the superyachts are really focusing on that part, and basically just a router is not enough, because then they can't provide a kind of certification or approval to their customer.
Yeah, and we've got a question from the audience as well. This is around human behavior, I suppose, awareness. So are you seeing any changes in human behavior regarding cybersecurity, and how are organizations educating their employees, their crew, around the risks of something like email, SMS, phone threats, all that kind of thing?
Yeah, of course, because we are a technology organization, we only provide the best technology. But yeah, you can drive a Ferrari, but if you are not the best driver, you have a big problem. So I see a lot of new relationships are popping up, like partners that collaborate on cybersecurity, but also awareness it's really important. When you implement a new technology, you also need to train your people on board of ships. So one example is one of the biggest fishing organizations, just the vertical of catching fish. They introduced an automated ship to have everything automated. It's like snapshotting a fish and drop it in a box. That organization was fully automated, but basically the language was English, and there was no awareness and training inside. So the people that were working there were French. So you have a beautiful technology, but if the language is not the same as the people on board of ships, you have a really big problem. So yes, it's really good to mention awareness. Training is really important, and sometimes they forget it.
Okay, thank you very much, Jasper. And if you could stop sharing your screen, and we'll go on to Dominic. Dominic, if you want to start sharing your screen whilst I do the introduction, that would be great.
Thank you, Ben.
Thank you very much, Jasper. So the next topic is on 4 and 5G. So any 4 and 5G system has 3 main building blocks: the SIM card or SIM cards, the router, split down into the hardware and the software layer, and then finally the antennas. So we'll start with SIM cards. We've got Dominic from My Data Sims. My Data Sims provides.
Hi, hi Ben. Sorry, yes. Can you see my screen? Okay.
Yeah, you're sharing. You're all good. Let me just do the introduction to the company, and then the stage will be yours. So, My Data Sims provides enterprise cellular data for super yachts and wider maritime industry vessels. It's a worldwide multi-network coverage, low latency, dual core network capability, all at wholesale rates. Dominic, you've had over 20 years in the telecoms industry, significant roles at EE, Orange, BT Global Services, a little bit at Vodafone, and then now you've started your own venture. So with that introduction, the stage is yours. Go for it.
Thanks, Ben. Showing my age up. Yes, I've been around many years in the cellular industry. So that's my skill set. I'm Dominic Stockman. That's my own business, My Data Sims, and as Ben said, I provide connectivity. It's not just the maritime market, but primarily for the maritime market. I came from a background all cellular. I think it's 25 years. But if I just quickly run through what I'm trying to achieve today, because SIM cards, well, first of all, it's boring. Secondly, it's quite commoditized, but there's a lot of nuances in the SIM card space that people are either unaware of or they do know but don't know all the details. So really, it's just to go through myself, what the providers out there, the fundamentals in the maritime market, what to choose, what to consider, and where it's all going. So that's that's really it in a nutshell. So it looks very noisy, this, of all my places where I've worked. It looks like I've been job hopping around over the last 25 years, but actually I've only had 3 jobs. It just shows how the industry is changing. I was originally at BT Cellnet, for example. It sold out to O2, which then became Telefonica. Then BT bought EE out, which was a merger of Orange. And this is just in the UK. So and that's happening throughout the world, throughout Europe. There's huge changes. It's a lot of the operators are trying to find growth, and data connectivity is where it is all going, because voice has been commoditized for over 20 years now. So So I set up my own business and I moved into this sector because I felt that in the super yacht maritime market, there's a lot of people were just either missold or, because anyone can buy and sell SIM cards. And so people going down a lot of dead ends, buying stuff that didn't really work. The customer experience wasn't very good. And I found that it was very easy to go in and just work with IT vendors, and that's how my business grew. So let's go through some cellular jargon. If you look at the journey has all been in the last 15 years all about data. Voice is just there, and it's not going to change. If anything, it's in decline. But the journey of evolution of cellular connectivity is all about data, and it's all about how fast the data can be and how resilient and that can be over long distances. So we're currently at 5G. It's not fully rolled out. It takes about 10 years to change the technology. We're probably about a quarter of the way through that on 5G. I think 4G LTE is just about finished, and there's talks of 6G already. But I think the fundamental part of the journey is all about faster, secure, reliable data connectivity. Then we look at the type of, the type of spectrum holdings that different operators can have, because they all change. They're all different. Some networks have paid a lot more money in their licensing, and they're more suited to higher frequency spectrum holdings, and therefore which is more suited for the 5G space, and some haven't necessarily bought the money. So not everyone is the same. Not every operator has the same spectrum holding. And you look at the type of SIM cards. Now, some of this obviously we all know, but the journey has gone from a smaller and smaller to a smaller SIM card, from a large SIM card right down to an electronic SIM card, and that's where it's going forward. People just want eSIMs now, and that's starting to come through into the business and IoT world. Originally, there was just one SIM card from an operator, and people just bought a SIM card, had voice on it, and then it had voice and data. But that has changed now. Then businesses saying, well, we want more functionality than just a standard consumer SIM. And then they say, well, hang on, we don't need voice. We want to put it into a machine. And then people start saying, well, we don't just want to put it into a machine. We want to put it into anything and just capture data and control it in a much more forensic way. So there's a bit of journey on the type of SIM card connectivity. Then there's the regulation that comes around. Some countries have their own stricter regulation than others. An example would be Turkey and Brazil. Then they don't allow permanent roaming in their countries. You have to notify them of any hardware where the SIM cards are connected to. So you've got to choose a provider that can manage all that regulation, and there's different variants of regulations throughout the world. You might have heard of prioritization of networks. This is where, in the UK, for example, the only prioritization historically has been where the government can switch all the SIM cards off and just use it for emergency services. And in other countries, such as the States, where they can prioritize the type of connection that's acting onto that cell site. So, and there's a whole space in between. So there is a prioritization story that's people are starting to get a little bit more control over what can connect and at what level. And of course, every SIM card wants to, every buyer wants to access all networks, because why wouldn't they? Well, so you need a multi-network roaming SIM, and that's fairly normal these days, as long as it's in enterprise and it's not just a consumer SIM. Commercially, you've got to be able to bill it, and prior to the LEO networks coming on board, Starlink and Eutelsat and OneWeb, and soon to be Kuiper, that people were just buying big bundles, and but that landscape has changed in the SIM card world, because people realize, well, I don't need 1 terabyte or 2 terabytes of cellular data if I've also got a LEO solution. So, but it's a game being played about, how to bill and commercially sell the product. Then you need to know about what your partner does with your data by steering it to different networks. So an MNO might just choose where to steer it. A SIM card a UK SIM card landing in France the operator might just want it to latch onto SFR first and then Orange second. So some people now want, well, we want it unsteered. We don't want you to steer. We want the router to steer it. But then you get soft steered SIMs and you get hard steers. So, even the networks can still overrule a lot of, what connectivity it can go to. So you've got to take these into account. The type of vendor SIM cards, multi-IMSI, if you're familiar with, and there's acronyms is one thing that is rife in the cellular world, and it's quite frustrating with all these acronyms, but single IMSI, multi-IMSI, EUICC. So a single IMSI SIM card would basically just be a mobile operator. Let's take Vodafone. They've just bought, they just have their own proprietary commercials, and they choose what connects to their SIM card. If you go to companies where they have multi-IMSIs, well, then they can say, well, we don't just want Vodafone IMSIs commercials. We might want to look at Orange's commercials and combine them onto one SIM card. So an MVNO tends to have multi-IMSIs built into the same platform. And EUICC, which is another horrible acronym, really it's defined as a software mechanism to put other profile remotely provide other companies' profile IMSIs onto that same SIM card. One also has to look at POPs and latency. Everyone wants low latency. In the days of VSAT, high latency makes poor communication. You need low latency. So OneWeb and Starlink have brought that out at sea to low latency, but you also need it in the SIM card environment. And if you buy a SIM card from one country and you take it to the other side of the world, it might break out all the way back in its home country, so you get high latency. So you need to look about where the points of presence are around the world where it breaks out. So that's a bit of the jargon. Just trying to see if, there we go. If I just switch my screen. So then you've got to look about SIM card providers. You have the MNOs, the mobile network operators. They're the ones that actually own the infrastructure on the ground. Well, they don't all often own the towers. They used to. They've been sold off. But the MNO owns the network. So take Vodafone example. The benefits of Vodafone is a branding. It's a great brand. Orange and all these large operators. They've got good brands. People have that trust with them. But they're not without their weaknesses, such as they're not agile. They choose the commercials, the breakouts, the technology, and so the less agile MVNOs, the mobile virtual network operators, these are the ones that are much more agile, have a lot more capability, and they have open access to which networks they can put on their connectivity. A hybrid would be the smartest way, is to blend the two together. So the benefits of an MVNO are that, like as I just said, they can have a multi-IMSI SIM. Commercially they can work all around the world. They can control the billing, and they can be a little bit more detailed in how they present that data to the client. The weaknesses of an MVNO, well, they're not known so well. And there's very many different flavors of a mobile virtual network operator. For example, if we're in the UK, Tesco, a supermarket, has a Tesco Mobile. It rides on the back of O2, and it's just a brand reseller. Then you have a full MVNO at the other end of the scale, which has its full own core network. It's the only thing it needs to connect to the operator is just for the signaling and going to the cell towers. And there's MVNOs in between. So the hardest thing for a potential client, is to understand what type of MVNO am I signing up to here? And a lot of people, they tend to get sold short, unfortunately. An example would be that the IMSI breaks out. They use a Filipino IMSI, and if the SIM card is in Italy, if the Filipino IMSI has a cheap rate in Italy, they'll use that, but it has to break out in the Philippines. The latency goes up because the IMSI sponsor is deciding what where that breaks out. So the summary of this understanding is to use a full stack MVNO with its full core network with full control, and that's sometimes hard to get the salesperson to tell you whether it is or it isn't. and that's where we can help as a company. So fundamentals into the maritime market. So you've got to always have two routes in. It's a British saying, belt and braces. Now that's two routes in, whether you're out at sea and it's using a VSAT and a backup, or using a Starlink and a OneWeb, or you've got to have two routes in. And the same comes when you're near shore. You've just got to, don't rely on just all eggs in one basket. We all know the sayings. Don't rely on just one modem. Don't have a cheap router. I can provide someone with a $50 router with a cheap SIM card and probably a very basic cybersecurity. It's all going to fall over. You have to sometimes look at this, do multiple modems, have a very smart SD-WAN router, which you'll hopefully hear about straight after me. Where possible, buy a dome solution. The Ripple, the Wave Hunter is a very clever idea, because you want to put the router and the aerials next door to each other, so you don't get any signal loss. If you try and do, if that's not possible, then do keep the aerial and the router as close as possible. Choose quality over price. Now, I know price is always the driver. Everyone wants everything cheap, so I'm not saying be price aggressive, but always look for the quality. And then, of course, the same applies for all these speakers today: the security and the reliability and the support. So things to consider. Can you sleep at night? Can you build this? The journey is going to eSIM compatibility. Well, I'll just buy an eSIM. When I'm in any country, I'll just buy an eSIM. Well, can you support that? Can you actually bill it to your end user? Can it be managed in an easy way? We can help people bringing them all into one pane of glass. But if you just think, well, I can just go, if you're just price driven, then anyone can buy a SIM card from anywhere, and but it's going to cause you a lot of headache. So can you give your clients the right experience? You can always look, it's usually a combination of all these elements you've got to look at to give you a stable solution in the maritime market. Because it's very hard to fix something when a vessel is the other side of the world and the wrong time zone. So it's very important to choose quality over something that's just cheap. You've also got to consider different scenarios. If a vessel is staying within the country, then, well, you're not going to necessarily need a roaming SIM card, of course. But you've still got to have the right SIM card with the right operator, and you've got to blend it and have multiple networks. Same applies to a ferry, just going from one country to the other. You can get regional, local connectivity deals. And as you go further on, you need to specialize into different connectivity solutions, because it can be complex. Now, it's not saying the cellular is going to be the leading part necessarily. OneWeb, Eutelsat, OneWeb, and Starlink, they might be doing all the heavy lifting, but you still need this cellular, with the right connectivity as either a backup or a blend into your pipe, because ultimately the client just wants a pipe that works at all times. So where's it going? I mentioned eSIMs. We have the ability where we can deploy eSIMs onto SIM cards. So where the hardware might not have the eSIM availability, we can actually bridge that gap by putting eSIMs onto SIM cards and controlling which eSIM to use in which country. And all of this, comes with finding the right partner to work with to help you guide you through all this cellular connectivity. So in summary, cellular is commoditized. It's very, anyone can buy a SIM card, but to put all this together, you do need the right advice, and that's what we're here to help you. Thank you very much. Ben, back to you.
Dominic, thank you very much. We have some questions for you. And interestingly, just to touch on eSIMs, I never knew they existed. I was recently at the Dubai International Boat Show, international charges on my SIM, got an eSIM, saved a bunch of money. First time I used it. It's really good. So yeah, it is actually happening. It's good to see and hear about what's actually happening from the industry side to provide that kind of thing. We've got some questions from John. We've seen a small shake-up in the 5G market, along with a massive shake-up in the traditional VSAT market. Are there fears that Starlink could potentially subvert the traditional data SIM market with something like Landlink, perhaps?
Well, I mean, one thing is for sure is that it's an technology is an evolution, and Starlink and OneWeb, they weren't around 2 or 3 years ago. So you adapt. One thing is for sure that you always need cellular because for example, I've got because it's cheaper sometimes. So if there's a vessel staying close to shore, the commercials still work out better not using Starlink, and you just have to be mindful of the technology. I mean, I think ultimately it's back to the pipe that the client wants. The client wants solid, secure connectivity at all times, and I don't think you can rely just on one link to deliver that. I think you need a combination. So I think cellular might have taken a bit of a reduction in its volume of data required in the maritime market, but it would be foolish for anyone just to rely on one technology. So I think the message here is, you need all of these in one place to get that robust pipe.
Okay, and then also the price has been a huge thing for the decision makers, for the customer as well. Let's touch on this one. We are getting towards time, but I found this one quite interesting. So one more thought: does Dominic see the creation of AI SIMs, so possibly AI routers, to make the autonomy of devices to actively bypass the network restrictions in real time?
I'm not quite sure what you mean by bypass the network restrictions, but in terms of using AI to choose the best route to take.
I interpret it as reversing the problem. So the device on board would actually act as almost a marketplace between different options, and in real time decide, right, I'm best connecting to that, and switching different networks.
Well, if you're going down a price discussion, then yes, you could use AI, and you could, instead of having, because you're not going to have someone just sat on a desk choosing which rate is cheaper on different. So yeah, I can see AI getting into a price discussion, but I should have, for my company, I don't want tickets. I don't want to have a ticket coming in at 3 a.m. because some connectivity's got an outage. So sometimes price isn't always the answer, and AI can't measure probably stability of connectivity. It's probably working just on a pricing exercise. I don't know. I'm not skilled into AI, but for an owner, yes, it would be great to just pick and choose whatever is at the cheapest, but I still want to sleep. I don't want any tickets. I don't want any outages, and that is an element that someone has got to take into account.
Okay, Dominic, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay, next we have Laurent coming on from Celerway, who's going to talk to us about their journey in the maritime world, talking about some of their customers and partners, their business needs, their challenges, and seeing how they're addressing these by partnering with the customer and being really customer first. And we'll be really focusing around the 4 and 5G technologies for this section, both the hardware and the software. Laurent, if you want to start sharing your screen, go for it, just whilst I'm introducing the company. So Celerway is based in Oslo in Norway, and was founded in 2012 to bring the results of advanced research into the real world. And since then, they've proven that their mobile-first Celerway OS with customers all around the world. To keep it simple, Celerway mobile-first platform enables customers to harness the power of multiple simultaneous wireless and wired connections to take their network where they need them to be, thus expanding the reach of their edge and branch network solutions. Laurent, I will pass to yourself. Take it away.
Hello, do you hear me?
Yeah, you're on. We can see your screen. It's set.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Thank you, Ben, for the introduction, and happy to have the opportunity to share some views related to maritime connectivity solutions. As you mentioned, yes, we are a Norwegian company based in Oslo, and although we have offices in 5 other countries. Okay, you want to start my video? Let's see. Can you see me now?
Yes, we can.
Yes, very good. So, yes, based in Oslo, we are a spin-off from Simula Research Center. So we come from the R&D. We did like soft funding for 6 years, and then we became a commercial company with a lot of technology, and we made products out of that. In 2022, we won the European Innovation Council's Accelerator Program, and we have been investing more than $15 million actually the last 10 years in total funding to develop, as you mentioned, in very complicated words, the most advanced platform in the industry to enable an intelligent, dynamic, and seamless load balancing of mobile networks, right? And this is a very important point. We are specialists when it comes to mobile networks. So you can find many routers out there that are that have modems inside, that you can put a SIM and so forth, and you can do SD-WAN, but they are not specialists of understanding the uncertainty of mobile networks. And this is exactly where Celerway comes into the picture. We have a strong link to the maritime industry because we are a Norwegian company, so we started very early in deploying and installing routers onto fishing boats, service boats in the North Sea, ferries, and then like container ships and even navies now. Sorry for that. Let's see how it works. Okay. We have a long history of successful collaboration with Poynting, everything from actually product development to discuss trends in the industry and work together on cases. We share values with Poynting. It's all about delivering high quality solutions, and that makes it possible for me to thank Dominic that actually just say what I'm going to repeat. It's all about quality, you know, in the maritime industry. You don't want to get tickets at night. You don't want to get awake. You don't want to have a nightmare in order to intervene on a vessel at the other corner of the world. So this is it. And this is where we fit into the industry, Celerway. We put a lot of emphasis on exactly that, on quality. Worry-free, resilient connectivity, worry-free global compliance. It has to work everywhere and it has to work all the time. And then worry-free software security. We are a Norwegian company. It's a Norwegian software, and we operate according to the highest Norwegian business standards. This is something maybe silly to say, but I think in today's world, it becomes more and more important to understand what it really means in practice, what I just said. So that translates into lower cost of ownership for the owners and the shipping companies, and peace of mind in regards to a global threat. Okay, I took with me this picture here. I have like 2 or 3 pictures of installations with our routers inside. This is a Wave Hunter. It hosts 3 Arcus devices that you can see here with special brackets at the bottom of the dome. And basically, my point here is to say that, yes, and of course, building upon what Dominic said, it will be foolish to rely only on one type of connection these days because of applications in the cloud, because you have to have uptime. It's so important to be sure that you are able to count on different networks. And only doing one is not a good thing. Even 5G alone, of course, or LEO or GEO. However, 5G is a good connectivity. Like we heard that already today. Basically, it has to do, you know, coverage it has become widely available near shore. Of course, we are talking about near shore connectivity. But you can imagine that super yachts, like 80% or 90% of the time, they are not more than 20 kilometers away from shore. So coverage, 5G coverage is great. Speed and performance is something very important to consider when you are thinking of 5G. It's still 5 to 10 times more download capacity and speed than LEO. and the latency is the lowest you can get in the industry still. So the message is again the same. Yes, LEO has done like a tremendous entry in the industry with good reasons. We understand that, but there is still a need to mix LEO with 5G, and maybe of course in scenarios where you cross the ocean, you still want to have a geo as well, of course. Just to show you a bit what we did together with Poynting in 2022, that was like early days of the Wave Hunter, 70 kilometers away from the coast of Cape Town, getting 129 megabit per second. That was quite an achievement. And we are very, very proud to be like a partner and do this thing together. However, speed is not everything. Just again, coming back to what Dominic said, quality of the connectivity, avoid connections dropping, avoid application disruptions, peace of mind basically in the operations. This is the key stuff we see, and many of our customers are only thinking about these things, and therefore they buy our products because they want quality at every stage. I can just give you a story of one of our customers. During the COVID, the crew was not allowed to leave the boat, as you can imagine. And these guys, they were only Skyping and using WhatsApp to reach their families and talk about very serious things that time, if you remember. And actually, we got so much positive feedback about that, that it was great quality using Celerway products, and it was really important for a crew well-being. Okay, another picture with one AUKUS and two Stratus this time in the bottom of the Wave Hunter. The idea here is that it's possible to build different solutions using different domes, of course, you have understood, and different equipment from Celerway. This one is more cost-effective than what I just showed you with the free AUKUS. Of course, you are losing some bandwidth capacity and some computational capacity because the AUKUS is our flagship. But still, it has to be a trade-off between what you want to do, the quality you want to achieve, and of course, the stability of the solution. Cost-conscious implementations. Maybe you want to use one single 5G modem combined with LEO if you are doing a lot of close to near-shore connectivity. For more performance-oriented implementations, you want to use 2, 3, maybe 4 5G modems combined with LEO, and you might have many antennas actually from LEO and different providers and even GEO. Okay. On this picture, a Ripple 16 with two AUKUS routers from Celerway. And again, here the whole idea that we love and that we are part of, we want to be part of that, is to really simplify installations, zero-touch activation, simple management, doing remotely, pushing config files to group of routers, making it very easy basically to manage these connectivity solutions, to install them, and save money, because at the end of the day, this is what it's all about, peace of mind of operations and saving money. I can just mention as well that with Celerway, we have 1 3-year package, including all licenses that you need in order to run the connectivity solution. So there is nothing more, everything is included in the package. Okay, I come now to the slide, which is a bit crowded. It's all about, again, this message of what is important for shipping companies, for our customers. What do they look after? They have different needs. They want to unify all kinds of data sources. I come back to that in a moment. But basically simplifying the hardware, the setup, the management, ensuring global compliance. I think that we are one of the very few vendor in the market that has really compliant products everywhere in the world, enables new capabilities, are the most important things for them. Extensibility is a major word now that has to do something with ease of adopting new technologies, such as edge computing. And this is basically what I'm going to talk about right now. Edge computing is all about doing more computation at the edge, right? So you don't need to put a lot of traffic back to the cloud all the time. We know that part of the computing can be done completely at the edge, at the point of activity. Part of the computing can be done in the base stations of the operators using 5G, and part of the computivity is done in Amazon Web Services or Google Cloud. So this is complexity as well, and actually, the most you do at the edge, the better it is. But that has a cost, of course, and you need to find the trade-off of what is necessary to do and according to your budget and your needs. So in Celerway, what we have done is that we are developing a platform on the top of our connectivity layer software that I have been explaining about what it was, doing like seamless handover between networks and all these things, kind of all SD1 kind of functionality you want to do at layer 3. On the top of that, you want to add some capabilities to be able to deploy SaaS solutions directly into our devices. So we see a need for that. Just to take an example, and to come back to what we were saying in the beginning with Fortinet and compliance and everything, in Celerway routers, you will be able to put a Fortinet firewall and operate it directly from our device and doing SD1 and doing all these things directly at the edge. Then you can just put together data flows from cameras, Wi-Fi, real-time images and video, and all kind of sensors, use both containers and VMs and do the whole thing through a cellular device. Last slide. This is about like the current range of routers we have doing edge computing. So you have the Stratus, which is able to cope with containers, doing multi-containers. Then we have the Arcus doing both containers and VMs. And then we have a more powerful version that we are about to release in the market, a more powerful version of the Arcus, which is named the Velocity. Back to you, Ben.
Thank you very much, Laurent. We've got a couple of questions for you. Number one is, how is satellite direct-to-cell service affecting all the antenna makers, Cell or VSAT?
I'm not sure I understand the question, so if you don't mind to repeat it.
Yeah, so it's, how is the satellite direct-to-cell service affecting the antenna makers? I think it's across Cell or VSAT. Hopefully that makes sense.
Yes and no, actually. So I think maybe we want to take this question like on the side.
Yeah, sure. So it's in the chat box. So if you want to answer that afterwards,
I will answer that. I will read it and answer that. Because maybe it's a question that will address to Poynting guys.
Yeah. And then if pointed at the sky, could pointing antennas use the direct-to-cell satellite service, so Starlink and T-Mobile? And are you planning on having an antenna model like this? Is that the same scenario?
Now, we are not dealing with antennas at all. And this is the basic of the relationship that we have with our friends from Poynting. We are just sticking to what we do. What we can do is this expertise in the 5G connectivity solution. We don't touch antennas at all. We don't touch Wi-Fi access points. We don't touch anything of these things.
Okay, right. We've just had one more in. We can get an answer to this. So does Celerway have a central management platform to manage the different modems from the remote?
Yes, absolutely. We have that. It's called Nimbus, and we can provide information if there is a need for it. No problem.
Okay, right. Thank you very much, Laurent.
You're welcome.
Okay, right. On to the next one. We've got Riccardo and Luke coming on. So let's go into KnowIT and Netways. So KnowIT is a value-added distributor specializing in innovative IT solutions with outstanding competence in networking, security, and storage. They've been long-term partners of Poynting, supporting numerous vessels, mostly in the Mediterranean Sea. Riccardo has got plenty of experience in multinational IT firms and excels in complex environments. He's adept at negotiation, teamwork, leadership, and additional expertise from roles in marketing and HR. enhancing his customer and partner engagement capabilities. Riccardo, I'll pass over to yourself to talk about 4G and 5G RF in the maritime world.
Okay, thank you very much, Ben. First, good morning or afternoon or evening, depending on on your time zone. As Ben already introduced me, I'm Riccardo Cavallieri, and I'm from KnowIT. And I'm really happy to be here today because we started distributing Poynting around 5 years ago. And it's really a pleasure to be here because I feel people from Poynting like really close mates, as we normally deal every day in a very easiest and familiar way. So thank you very much for inviting me today. First, let me introduce, I'm not, okay, sorry. Okay, first, let me introduce the agenda for the next around 20 minutes. I will cover point 1 to 3. Then I will let Luke from Netways to cover point number 4 and 5. But just to give you a brief idea on what we will cover in the next few minutes, I would first of all cover some fundamentals, and basically we will talk about frequencies, gain, and partner. Don't be afraid. I'm not technical guy. I will not go in depth in each of these topics, but I would give you a brief idea on what we are talking about, because I think that when we are evaluating an antenna, I think these are things that we need to consider. So in order to let you have some more education in terms of which are the fundamentals that could let you better choose your own antenna. Then we will move into the different solution that Poynting can propose us. Small antennas, stick antennas or traditional antennas. The most traditional antennas are, of course, on a stick shape, as a stick shape. So we will move through it. Then I will let Luke drive you around some secrets. And this is quite interesting because Luke will introduce you a couple of models that could help you squeezing the last nautical miles and megabits from your mobile connectivity. But I don't want to anticipate anything from his side, so I will move with my presentation. First, frequencies. I think this picture is quite self-explaining. So it means that when we are thinking about a vessel that is sailing, depending on the position toward the shore, it will have some frequencies available. Of course, the closest the vessel is to the coast has higher frequencies that, of course, has more energy. So it seems to provide more powerful connectivity. While if we are moving away from the coast and we are sailing offshore, of course, only lower frequencies will be available. And I think this is the first thing that we need to take into consideration, because as we will see in a while, the shape of the antennas directly influence will have a direct impact and a direct influence on the performance in terms of managing the different frequencies. Then we have the gain, and this is funny because most of my clients use the first question when I try to introduce a new antenna is which is the gain? They are always quite frustrating around the gain. They are always thinking which is the gain, which is the maximum gain, so on and so forth. But I think this is not the right question. The question is which is the gain at each frequency, because as we can see in the previous chart, the antenna is moving from the coast to the offshore. So the antenna needs to deal with different frequencies. So no matter if the antenna has a great performance on higher frequencies, because when we will be in the middle of the sea and we are dealing with lower frequency, and the antennas has poor performance on lower frequencies, that would be an issue. So be careful, not ask when you deal with an antenna, don't ask the question, which is the gain, but is the gain stable across the different frequencies? This is the secret of a good and performing antennas. This is quite difficult for those not familiar with antennas, but I will try to introduce you in this slide, because I think it's quite interesting. This is the radiation pattern, okay? And we have two different images. So we'll try to drive you around those two. The first is the picture on how the low gain antennas creates a sort of bubble, and when we say we look at this bubble, is the surface that is really receptive to your radio waves coming from the coast. And this is the difference between a low gain antenna and a high gain antenna. So meaning that in order to increase the gain of your antenna, we need to squeeze the bubble in order to expand the power of your antenna. But you see these two different shapes, and look at this slide. This is how your boat is in the middle of the sea, okay? Your boat is rolling, your boat is going up and down, your boat is having a specific direction. So the more is thin your bubble, like the one at the bottom of this page, lower is the opportunity to get in contact with the antennas on the coast. Bigger is the bubble, bigger is the opportunity to get the signal directly coming from the coast. And I think I would cover those topics because I think these are quite interesting, although we are not technical topics, in order to understand how to choose an antenna. Why we have to choose a specific shape compared to the other, and why high gain is not always a good compromise in order to have good performance. So I think this was quite an interesting introduction, that when the guys from Poynting gave me those information, I think, okay, I got it. Now I have some more educated approach in order to choose the right antenna. So at this moment in time, let me drive you in some solution that Poynting can provide you. The first is around the small factors antennas. Of course, they are all ranked IP69, IK10 protected, SOL protected. So they have everything you need in order to install it on a vessel. The reason why my customer are asking for this antenna is they have good performance compared to the shape. They are really small, and specifically, if let me use this one, okay, just to show you the entire range of this small factor antenna. The PAC series is really small. It is really appreciated because you can install everywhere. Like also the MIMO 4 series. They sometimes in the vessel, they don't like to see the antenna, or they need to antennas to be placed in a very small location. So this is the right antenna. Low price, low dimension, but good coverage. And also you can have in these antennas can deploy an only one solution, meaning that you can have on the same chassis both LTE, but also the Wi-Fi and GPS antennas. So installing just a single device, you can manage all the antennas of your router. And in case of 5G, the MIMO 4 and the MIMO 3 has the opportunity to have multiple LTE antenna inside in order to help you cover all the needs. Another thing that let those antennas be really appreciated is the opportunity to have different kind of mounting options. So you can mount those antennas on a pool, on a surface. So this I think is what our customers in the maritime are looking for. Something easy to deploy, easy to install, not expensive. So very entry level, available for all customers that want to approach internet on board. Let me then move to the traditional approach, meaning that we have stick antennas outside while the router remains inside the boat or in a very specific location. The medium form factors, of course, has the same characteristics in terms of protection as the family that we were seeing before. And the opportunity is to have a SISO antenna like the Omni 493, the 2x2 MIMO, that is the Omni 402 5G, or the 4x4 MIMO, that is the Omni 414. And this is, I think, the secret of Poynting. So the ability to provide the products for each kind of installation, because one of the main question that I used to get from a customer, I have a 5G modem, so 4x4 MIMO. Which is the best solution if I'm looking for this kind of antenna? There's no answer to that question because it depends on the need. It depends on the option they have. So I can have 4 Omni 493, I can have 2 Omni 402, or I can have 1 414. Of course, it depends, as I told you, about the expectations. So if I want the best performance at all, for sure, I need to have 4 single antennas, very high peak gain, very able to manage lower frequencies. So I will move for a solution made of 493. The 900 series, if I remember well, Poynting started the deployment of this series a couple of years ago. At the very beginning, I was quite skeptical about this antenna. And the reason why I'm here in Italy, the yachting market is probably one of the most powerful markets we have in terms of nautical industry. And those target is really put a lot of attention in the static parts of the boat. So those antennas, if you can see the dimension, we are talking about something 1.6 meter or 2.4 meters. So quite an impressive antenna. So I was quite skeptical because I was thinking this was not the right product for my customers. But then we tried to test it with a partner, and specifically the 904 that allow you to deploy two low gain and two high gain antennas inside on the same chassis was probably the best option a customer can have in order to manage connectivity also when you are quite far away from the shore. So I was really impressed by the performance of this antenna. So today is probably one of my preferred options in terms of deploying a traditional solution, external antennas and router inside. Then let me give you some insight in terms of opportunity to deploy those solutions. The 400 series, of course, is suitable for each kind of installation, no matter if we are talking about commercial vessels, super yachts, cruise ships, or tugboats, because it's really suitable for each of these, because the small dimensions compare, of course, to the 900 series, allow you to install quite easily, no matter if you are looking for a SISO or a MIMO solution. So our experience is great, no matter which is the segment you are targeting. For example, give you just this example, this vessel was moving around the North Sea, and thanks to the 493 SISO antenna, was able to powering the router towards the entire trip they made from the Netherlands to the very North Europe. So I think this is quite a good example on why we need a good antenna on board. The same is for the 900 series. The application is quite the same. If we have the opportunity to install this kind of antenna that, of course, are bigger compare the previous series, it's of course better, because as we see at the very beginning, the shape and the dimension have a direct impact on how the antenna is able to manage lower frequencies. So for this reason, if we have the opportunity, this could be the right choice. Of course, here is another example how to deploy the solution using the 900 series. I think I did my job, so I passed the stage to Luke. Thank you very much, and in case there's should be some questions, I'm here to answer.
Super, thank you, Riccardo. So we'll leave the questions for you to answer in the Q&A section. Just type away and go for that, because we're slightly pressed for time. Let's go to Luke from Netways. Very quickly. Netways Europe is a supplier of high-end, cost-saving network solutions for Ethernet and fiber optic infrastructures. Luke is a seasoned professional, adept in aligning business and IT objectives, maximizing the potential through strategic technology utilization. Luke, go for it. I'll hand it over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Ben. Thank you for the introduction. Yeah, well, for the sake of time, I will keep my own introduction a bit short. I'm working in the IT industry for more than 20 years. One of the owners of Netways Europe. We are your connectivity partner. We are partnering with Poynting for over 3 years now. And we are helping a lot of our customers with connectivity solutions, wired and wireless.
Luke, just so you know, we can see your whole screen, so we can see the notes as well as the presentation. So if you want to just share screen again, and we'll see how that works.
Okay, sorry.
Right, perfect. Thank you, Luke.
No problem. I will skip the rest of my introduction. A few things were mentioned by Riccardo already. We have a few topics today which have left in the Poynting portfolio. One of the typical things is how to squeeze more out of 4-5G. One of the key things is polarization. All the traditional antennas, which Riccardo mentioned just yet, are using the vertical polarization, where the sending and receiving antennas send out the signals in the very same way as its opponents. We see that works quite well on land situations, but as ships do roll and pitch, the signals may not come in the same way as the antenna situation is, and there they lose a lot of signal, because you can lose at say 3 dBs on depending on how the waves come in. One of the most easy things to see that on a daily example is when you use polarized sunglasses. When you wear polarized sunglasses and you tilt your phone to a 90 degrees angle, then the screen of your phone disappears, and it simply filters away the light which hits your sunglasses. In the same kind of way, it works with radio signals on the antennas. So one of the things we can do with radio signals is just using also horizontal polarization in there. This way we can catch simply more signal, and we have more high quality signals left to get the highest possible data rates. Since the stick antennas don't have any horizontal polarization possibilities, you can imagine the traditional antennas work well, but can't get the most out of it when it comes to polarization and best use of mobile signals. A short video when it comes to what a sunglass does when it comes to polarization. And a little on the middle section, you see what it does with the signal quality when you tilt the antenna, and what the received signal is when you go to the end. That gives you a rough idea why we should introduce polarization in antennas. So the single polarization setup can address all challenges in the maritime industry, because when you're rolling and down the sea, and especially when it's kind of rough, then you can imagine that a lot of optical radio signals are lost, and you're no longer able to squeeze all out of the performance you can possibly get when you are using a full polarized setup. Besides polarization, you get quite a lot of loss when it comes to using long coaxial cables. Besides that, it's quite labor intensive. When you want to use great quality coaxial cables, they are quite thick. Bending is quite difficult. And in the end, there is a limitation of what length of cabling you should use, because every meter you use on extra cabling, you will lose an extra signal. So it will, in the end, degrade your performance. As just stated, the omnidirectionals could possibly be less efficient when it handles RF interference. Riccardo just gave us a picture where there is a big bubble where not only valid signals but also RF interference is coming in and is there you get some gain also on non-valid signals, and that just simply gives us a far less efficient signal to interpret by the router, where directional ones are far better in isolating the good signals and ditching the interference signals which shouldn't be used when it comes to an optimal mobile network. The other ones are covered by Riccardo. So what we will do is focusing on the domes. We have the Wave Hunter, we have the Ripple, and the EPNT4. I will focus for now on the first two ones. One of the things which are a key feature from dome solutions is you don't need to run any long coax cables. So you just can feed in the UTP cable for the data transport, and in some cases you need to feed some wire for the electrical power. So no coax cables below deck, no thick cables running towards all kind of impossible angles. That saves a lot of installation time. And there you save a lot of money also, because long coaxial cables are also quite expensive when of good quality. One of the other things we can use in those dome systems are the dual polarization, which I just talked about. There is simply a lot of space to use the right angled polarization placement of antennas. And we have directional and omnidirectional solutions when it comes to domes, where every type has its own kind of application, which I will talk about a little bit later. Let's have a short comparison of the two different dome types. First, we have the Ripple in two versions, 16 antennas and the 8 antenna version. They are designed for 5G applications, where it typically depends on the requirements when it comes to redundancy and performance, where the 16 based version can have 4 radios, and the 8 antenna version can have 2 for 5G radios, where both versions have the horizontal and vertical ports for polarization. They're also having a Wi-Fi antenna and a GPS antenna inside, and they can use the full range of frequency bands which we use globally. The Wave Hunter is the big brother. It's quite a lot bigger than the Ripple, where we have 4x4 directional antennas instead of omnidirectional antennas. We can use up to 6 5G radios in there, and they are also horizontal and vertical polarized. And also Wi-Fi antenna, and then 2 times the GPS antenna inside in the enclosure.
Luke, let's speed through this last bit. I want to keep momentum with the event, and we'll run short of time as well. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's try to speed up a little bit then. We have the Ripple 8 and 16 domes are mainly used on is a mid-sized dome, easy to install, due its low weight. Over time, they evolved also the installation easiness a little bit by using an extra bracket where you can just swap off the top, and you can install a router or SIM cards without having to have another person The weight of this thing is more than easy to carry by one person, so installation is quite easy and you don't need a crane. In general, we see this a lot of customers using this in river cruising, dredging vessels, and that kind of applications. The big brother, this is the biggest antenna dome we have from Poynting. Laurent already told something about the routers which can be installed inside, so we'll skip that part. We see this a lot used on yachting and the bigger ferries and river cruises, where we have the most challenging environments where we see this kind of dome used. Pay attention, it's a really heavy dome, so most of the times we need a crane to install it. It gives it's directional antennas, which means with this one we can get the best out of the optical signal, and beside that it gives the highest range when it comes to kilometers from shore. Of course, you need to have an optimal situation to get the most out of it, where also the towers on the shore side needs to be pointed in the right direction, but they have really reached out up to between 90 and 100 kilometers from shore, and even then quite a stable mobile connection. So that's a bit of a wrap when it comes to the portfolio of the Poynting antenna setups. I rushed a little bit through the last few ones because of the sake of time. If you have any questions about details around the domes, just drop something in the chat or drop me an email, and we can see where we can help you out.
Super. Thank you very much, Luke and Riccardo, for those. Now the event gets really juicy now. It gets quite good. We're here for some from some very significant brands that we all would have heard across the industry. We hear about some case studies of what's taking place and what kind of solutions are being brought to market. We've got Alexandra coming on from Eutelsat OneWeb in just a moment. Just 2 moments before we start that, to make sure that we can run events like this in the future. A key part of doing that is getting your feedback. We're making it as easy as possible for you all to do that. If you go in the chat box now, we've got a question for you that you just type 1 for yes, you agree, 2 for no, you disagree. And then if you want to say anything else, then put it in the comments, go for it. The question is, so far, has this event been useful to hear about connectivity and cybersecurity solutions in our industry? Of course, the answer is 1, but just put it in there so that we've got the chat box. There we go, the Q&A, well done. So that we can make sure that we have plenty of testimonials for the event and we can do it again. I'll save the question 2 for after Alexandra's talk. I can see those coming in from everybody. That's super helpful. So thank you very much. Now we're going on to SAT connectivity from Alexandra. The title of this talk is The Growth of Hybrid Connectivity. So Eutelsat OneWeb, space is the future for infinite connectivity on Earth. Eutelsat OneWeb is part of the Eutelsat Group, the world's first GEO-LEO satellite operator, delivering ubiquitous global connectivity. Look at that. And I'll leave Alexandra to introduce herself, and she's perfectly capable of doing that. Let's get on with it. Alexandra, stage is yours.
Thank you, Ben. Thanks very much. And thank you, Poynting, for having me today. There's some familiar names I can see on the list. So hi, everyone, and thanks for joining us. Let me just share my screen, make sure I'm doing this correctly. Should be screen 2. Sorry, just bear with me. Okay.
Okay, you're
Can you
right. If you just
see
go
my
yeah,
note
if you just
slides
go,
or my presentation slides?
we can see your notes as well at the moment.
Okay. How do I switch that? Sorry.
I just go into full screen on the actual presentation. So it's showing the whole display rather
Yeah,
than
I'm doing
the
that
presentation.
already.
Yeah.
Okay, just bear with me. I'll just introduce myself while I work this out. So, everyone, I'm Alexandra Kenworthy. I'm Director of Maritime and Energy here at Eutelsat OneWeb. I've been with the organisation for 3 years now, legacy OneWeb side. So, been working more on the LEO focus, but the last 12 to 13 years in the maritime industry, working on GEO, L-band, all the exciting things I think that majority of us are well aware of. So thank you for having me. I'll be talking about the growth of hybrid connectivity today. So as you're all probably aware, we merged with Eutelsat to create a LEO GEO strategic play organisation. But with me, I will share now. This should work. Okay. Sorry, I'm having a few computer problems because I've come on 2 screens today. There we go. Ben, is that the correct screen?
Yes, you're on. Super,
We're
perfect.
on. We're in the game. Apologies, guys. So I'll be talking about us at a glance, just for those that don't know who we are. I know LEO is a hot topic at the moment, so it's important to let you know who we are compared to the industry. We'll be talking about the benefits of GEO and LEO networks and also combining hybrid networks. And then just giving an overview of the traditional satellite orbits, what they're doing today and why they're all still very important in their own right. And then again, sort of focusing on that hybrid solution and why vessels need to be hyperconnected. So who are we? At Eutelsat OneWeb, we have merged form a company from the Eutelsat geostationary satellite side and now the LEO satellite side. So we've merged together as the strongest strategic, truly multi-orbit player being delivered from one organization. So this is really exciting for us. We have over 650 satellites flying. So the majority of those, as you're aware, are LEO. We're actually fully launched as a low Earth orbit satellite company. So we have our full global launch. And then obviously on the GEO side, already been delivering services for many, many years. Okay, so our GEO network really is the capacity dense part of our organizations. So what is that doing? It's got the ability to focus on capacity for kind of over high demand regions. And we're seeing this in markets such as video and broadcast, which is quite traditional at the Eutelsat side of the business, but also for cruise and offshore. So it's really delivering capacity dense to the larger vessels and the larger portion of the market. The satellites do have a longer lifespan. We already see this on the large install base that we've had on global markets for many years now. You'll actually see our satellites as the backbone to a lot of the key partners, global VSAT, KU or KA, as part of their global rollout. Eutelsat really is the backbone of that. And on our LEO network, we have full global coverage, and it's proven that our rapid scale up to launch a network is positive. Obviously, we're also launching the ground stations, which is really important to make sure we can land traffic in multiple locations, which for the markets we're serving, we need to do that compared to other operators who might have inter-satellite links. We work a lot on the backbone of telco as well. So it's, we've got a lot of infrastructure to deploy. Essentially what it's offering is high speed and low latency, which we know is critical for real-time applications and a higher quality of experience for the users. So just to give those an overview of what we mean when we say LEO and GEO. So here you can see a diagram of the LEO satellite, so low Earth orbit. They're quite close to the Earth. Again, law of gravity. So how long it takes for data to go from point A to point B is obviously very quick the closer you are to the Earth, which is why it gives you that low latency. And what low latency means, it means it can enable applications such as video streaming, which needs data to be sent back and forth in a very quick manner. It means HD video streaming, actually. It also means applications such as real-time data being sent, whether you're on shoreside or whether you're on the vessel. But also it can enable a lot of applications that we're seeing of, vessel optimization, a lot of sensor monitoring, so that shoreside staff now can really be connected to that vessel. Now we're seeing an influx of satellites launching into the LEO space, as I'm sure you're well aware. We've got Starlink as well, so SpaceX. We've got Amazon coming over the next few years, which is Kuiper, also known as Kuiper. And we're really seeing the space take up. So as part of Eutelsat OneWeb, we have a very strong sustainability approach, which is ironic, really, considering we launch on rockets. But our satellites are built with no heavy metals. So it means they fully combust in space, essentially. So we never leave any trace in space. And we can do this. We can actually cover the Earth by the satellites that we've launched already, so we don't need to be a mega constellation. We're fully covered Earth, sat at the sweet spot of 1,200 kilometers away, so it's really important. We focus on sustainability whilst launching lots of satellites in space. Then you have your MEO orbit, so that's your mid-Earth orbit, so you're sat around 20,000 kilometers away from the Earth. This is the sort of companies, the likes of SES, that you might know very well, who have been able to deliver a large amount of capacity across a number of regions across sort of Middle East and Africa, which we're seeing as really strong capacity dense satellites. Again, the further you go away, the higher the latency starts to get. So the MEO market has been a really interesting and aggressive market during the space until LEO's come along, but there's very much a need because we only ever see data needs increasing. So these constellations, all of us need to work together to deliver the needs of all the different end customers' requirements, essentially. Then we have the legacy geostationary orbit, which is where our geo satellites are sat. So this is 36,000 kilometers away from Earth. They tend to be a lot larger, so you see them the size of a double-decker bus. When you launch these on a rocket, you tend to launch one satellite. The rocket is much larger than a LEO rocket, where you can launch around 34 satellites on a LEO rocket. So really, the reason for that is they're much larger, much more powerful. Where they're sat in space, they have to be able to see, deliver capacity to Earth, but also they have much longer lifespan. So they're much more powerful, really can deliver capacity dense and intelligent maneuvers to the industry. So there really is a need for everyone in this industry. So we're really seeing over the past 4 years the increased amount of satellite launches for new satellites. We've obviously been part of that, but it just shows the huge amount of infrastructure being set up in the sky to meet these increasing demands of the global sectors and all these customers that need lots of different things. Since the launch of LEO as well, we're seeing a lot of new markets open. We're really seeing needs in markets that we've never had access to before in sort of previous roles or previous geostationary kind of markets. We're seeing markets such as agriculture, solar backhaul, redundant network infrastructure increasing, and obviously working closely with government to really bring stabilization and reliability to their networks. And here's just a few of those. So, we're really seeing the, sorry, I was having there we go. We're seeing an increased demand for pop-up networks. So whether that's for disaster recovery or for redundant government networks, cellular tower, backup, but we've become the chosen LEO partner for countries' infrastructure resilience, and that's why we're building multiple ground stations, because we can deliver the direct interconnect, so the interconnect into our network. We offer committed speeds and service level agreements, and that's what's needed for this market, and that's what the traditional satellite market has always been. We're also working very closely on 4G, 5G backhauling, and this is more on land at present. So we're very close with multiple partners, whether that's Telstra, AT&T, BT, a lot of the giants in this industry, and we're proving OneWeb over sort of 4G, 5G, and this has been a huge win for us, and we're bringing this to the seas. So for us, it's really important to partner on the 4G, 5G side, because it can really prove autonomous shipping. It can create a hyper-connected vessel. So with the increasing solution of this backhauling, we're actually working on an autonomous vessel at the moment, and it's just got LEO and 5G on it. I'm looking forward to sharing that case study with you. But essentially, this is pretty groundbreaking for the industry. And it's important that OneWeb's connected to cover for also inland maritime travel, coastal waters, but also across the seas as well. So we're actively addressing the increasing challenges. We see these, the market changing, the constant need for flexible bandwidth augmentation. For example, they might want increased capacity for specific projects in offshore, whether they have ROVs, but then also an offshore vessel might work closely to shore, so they can reduce their SATCOM and augment their SD-WAN solution to then use the coastal 5G capacity, or they can stretch that 5G capacity to make sure that they've always got low latency, and bundling that with sort of a LEO infrastructure. And maybe when they're at sea and they want more dedicated bandwidth, they also partner that with a MEO or a GEO service. So we're really starting to see the shift in this dynamic bandwidth needs from the customers and kind of what they're using and starting to put together. And it's been really interesting to be involved in that. We're seeing the increased need for transmitting more data. So it's not just using multiple orbits or multiple different networks. It's also the true amount of data that these companies are pushing through. We've seen an absolute acceleration in all networks. So it really shows the need for hybrid solution to fit all the customers' needs. And the good thing is the industry's quickly shifted to producing very clever SD-WAN solutions. We're seeing more increase on cloud integration applications and customers actually using the cloud. In the maritime industry, it's taken us a long time to move to how we work on land, but we're seeing this increase more and more. Starting to see more machine learning and AI, and this ever-shifting industry really is adapting to all these growing demands. Here really shows, this is more on the SD-WAN side, but the different selection of tunneling and protocols are really important, as it can have a huge impact on the end user experience. So it's an important part of the decision on the software-defined routing and the packet optimization selection. So really, in summary, there's loads of ways that we can create a hybrid offering with many links, but the management of this is key. So the partner and who's managing this as a customer is really important. But more importantly, what does this mean for our industry? So what does a hyperconnected ship look like? We're seeing vessels being enabled to use autonomous navigation applications. They're using accurate weather routing, and this means that they're able to update their maps. So instead of trickling any updates across 3 days, they have a few minutes of updating their maps, and then they have already improved their just-in-time arrivals. They're able to be more transparent with their suppliers and their customers. And we're just seeing this across the board of a much more transparent industry. Obviously, I think in Europe, this has shifted really quickly. I think there's still parts of the world that are slowly, across in Asia and in other locations that are starting to adapt a lot of these new applications. So it really does show the demand that as they're stretching across coastal waters or stretching outside of land, they're constantly needing low latency. The demand for low latency is ever increasing. So the need for 4, 5G and LEO on a vessel is getting higher. We're seeing a lot of machinery optimization. So these monitors are collecting accurate information. It's enabling the shoreside team to always understand real time what's going on with the vessel and how it's performing, make sure it's performing sustainably within the measures, and also improving routing and travel. We're seeing an increased use of video streaming. So whether this is HD cameras on board, whether they're using that for telemedicine or for operations such as ROVs, we're also seeing it in crew. And this is the most important thing. We've seen a massive improvement in crew connectivity. And then it improves crew happiness. So in turn, it means they're more focused on their work. They feel they have more of a balance for work and personal. They feel fully connected when they're on and off shift. So it means they're fully connected to their family, but also fully connected to their team. So they're collaborating much more with shoreside teams, with other vessels, and making sure that they're feeling part of a global organization rather than just one ship on their own. And this, in tandem with other networks, is critical to improving life at sea, whether that's in the work environment or the personal environment. So thank you. That's the end of my talk. And if you have any questions, please let me know.
We've got questions, Alexandra. That was fantastic. I really like the phrase "leave no trace in space." That's good. We've had one about Eutelsat. OneWeb has already got legal coverage in regions like the UAE, Dubai, Abu Dhabi. If not, when will this be available on the commercial level in this region?
So in general, the Middle East region, we're live in multiple of those countries, which is great news. We've built POPs. So you have, for your license there, you actually have to land the traffic within the countries. So we have a POP in UAE, we have a POP in Saudi, and it's really important because we have to abide by the law. Secondly, we have a JV with NEOM, which obviously helps our go-to-market in these key regions, especially in Saudi, which we are live. So if you have any needs, please reach out to me and I can work with you on those.
Okay, magic. And we've got another one. As far as I can understand, your LEO constellation is sitting at 1,200 kilometers, so twice the distance from Starlink. How will this impact differences in performance? Is that the LEO and mid-Earth orbit difference?
Yeah, so we're still classed as LEO. So obviously a MEO orbit is at 20,000 kilometers. We're at 1,200. So we actually range from 1,000 to 1,300, but on average we tend to just report 1,200. And Starlink is sat between 600 and 800 kilometers away, so they're really not too far from us. The difference of the OneWeb network is we actually have an amount of gigahertz of prioritization. So if there is ever, if there's something that needs to be prioritized through connectivity, we actually have the priority in space. So that's something that we have, and that's why we can apply CIRs and SLAs on our service. It does not affect the service. There's really no different. It's similar to whether a geostationary satellite is at 30,000 or 38,000. It really doesn't affect the service. We still keep the latency low because the data is still not going that far away.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you very much, Alexandra.
Thank you.
All right, the next section is the real world, real needs and real solutions. And we've got a case study coming on. So we've got Geir, Steinar and Erik that are coming online. They're part of a 150-year-old commercial ferry operation. They're going to be talking about what kind of challenges they faced, how they've continued to survive and grow, and cover things like that. I believe they're all online. So if you want to turn your video cameras on, share screen if you would like to. And right, we've got a case study from Torghatten. I'm hoping I'm said that correctly. And Torghatten Nord, and we've got Emcom as well. So Torghatten is a company part of the Torghatten Group. Prime activity is maritime transportation with ferries and fast ferries in Norway. And then we've got Emcom on as well, who's a supplier of the telecommunication products from routers to antennas, from Wi-Fi to 4 and 5G passing through NB-IoT and other similar technologies. So I'll pass over to you guys to take it away. We've got the same situation there with the, we can see your notes. So if you just make your presentation the full screen, and that's what we'll see. Yeah, so if you go on to full screen for the presentation, then that's what we'll see. I think if you go out of presenter mode, then it should be the just the presentation.
Good. Okay. Center mode. It's
Yeah, if you want to just try again, then we'll go from there. No worries. I'll give you guys 2 minutes just whilst we're waiting for that. We'll do another bit of feedback because that worked really well. So again, we've got a similar question to everybody. Check what's gone. Here we go. So the next question for the feedback, if we could just do the same again, that would be great. The question is, from the panel so far, does this event provide real-world insights that can help you professionally? The answer for 1 is yes, 2 is for no. And if you've got any further comments, go for it. We'll take those as feedback, and it'll help us to put on plenty more of these events in the future. Of course, again, the answer is 1. If we could start having some responses on that front, that would be fantastic. I can see them coming in. Thank you, Pedro, Marco, Nima. That is great. And at the same time, we've got the presentation working. So that's fantastic. I will hand over to you guys once again. Go for it. The stage is yours.
okay. Ben, are you seeing the presenter mode now? Are you seeing the full screen?
Yeah, you're good. Spot on.
Okay. First of all, thanks for inviting us. My name is Geir Gramdal. I am from Emcom in Norway. We are the distributor of both Poynting and Celerway in our area. And today I have the pleasure of inviting one of the really cool customers in this maritime area. That's Steinar Lekanger in Torghatten. So, Steinar, are you with us? I have to tell that Steinar need to run for a mission this morning, and he's in another city. So you should be online now. Are you online, Steinar?
I believe he is. I'm not sure if he's sorting out his microphone. I believe he's going from one location to the other in an airport. There you go. Right, you're on.
Steinar is in.
Yes, I'm in. So we are Torghatten Nord. We are located in the north part of Norway, and we have ferries. Some are operating in the West Fjord on the north part of Norway, and in a very area. It's a long distance for ferry, about 4 hours, one trip from to another. So we also operating about 43 ferries and high-speed ferries, and in the company totally we are 1,250 employees.
Right.
So you see a long coastline we have.
Right. You have some challenges, Steinar. Can you give us a few examples about what you were challenging in your operation in terms of communication?
Yes, we had not a problem, but when we install this system from Erik and Geir, we have a much better communication on board, on shore communication with the ship and the system on board the ship. So that's the reason we try to install these systems.
Right. Saying something about what area you are operating in. We made this map.
Yeah.
You have vessels all over the Norwegian coast.
Yes, we have.
and-
Yes,
and
we have.
you have, yeah.
We are operating ferries in the west part of Norway, in the south, and also in the north part. We're crossing the area from Bodø to Lofoten in the Westfjord. One of the hardest part of Norway for operating ships. There we are, yeah.
We have heard from a lot of the speakers today that they are all very tan. They are operating in the Mediterranean with palms in Monaco and so on. But you are actually working in this area in the North Atlantic.
In the north. We're crossing the Westfjord over to Lofoten.
Yeah. The small green dot here, that's an area where you never had really stable communication before.
Yes, we had problem with communication, so yes.
And just to show you what kind of environment you're working in, this is a day in the office.
Yes.
The ferry distance that you used as a proof of concept was Bodø-Moskenes. It's 100 kilometers.
100 kilometers.
More than 3 hours.
Yeah, 3 hours on ship.
Yeah.
Yeah. With a speed of about 70 knots.
Right. When we can see the environment, there is really tough conditions.
Yes. One of the ferries in the west.
What are you using the data for on board? What's in your need of communication?
It's everything from the communication to the office, communication to the crew, and also the communication to the area for passenger and everything. So and also the business application on payment terminals, on crew welfare, and passenger service. So there is the
right. And you were working together with our local partner in the area, Erik.
Yes.
He was also your kind of trusted advisor in this.
Yes.
So you came up with a solution for getting better communication.
Yes.
Here you can see the pilot that you installed, the proof of concept.
Yes.
A Ripple 8 mounted, custom mounting on the top of the ferry.
Yes, install this system there will be still this system new also more of the ferries for a better communication.
Right.
Yeah.
And also with the dual 5G Celerway Stratus.
Yes.
So what kind of experience do you have in terms of uptime and speed? We can see the map here.
The feedback from you, and also from the feedback from the ship, it's much more better speed of the data, and also much more better communication with ship and office. And
it's really cool to see that you are actually traveling 100 kilometers in the roughest ocean in the northern Norway, North Atlantic, and you have full coverage. So the signal, this is taken directly out of the Stratus, the Celerway Nimbus software. So it's a full coverage all the time. So we also tested with the same ship, just to show you, if you go inshore, in between the islands, this is just a small trip south of your base in Bodø. And you can see that you have full coverage also when you go in between the islands.
Yes.
This is a trip from Sandnessjøen to Bodø with another vessel with the same solutions from Monday.
Right. So this is not the proof of concept ship. It's one of the other ships that we have installed later.
Yes.
Now you have totally 6 ships up and running with this, or at least installed or under installation for 6 ships.
Yeah. Yes.
It's a really cool story to see the development. When it comes to performance of the system, this is what we download with the dual Celerway and Ripple 8. So we have actually cracking the gigabit speed. And this is amazing when you talk about the distance from shore and the rough conditions you are in. So do you have any comments to that speed? Any numbers of the improvement from the old solution based on single solutions and silo based?
Yes, and the worst speed we get on the Westfjord is maybe 100 to 200 megabits per second in the worst area.
Yeah.
With lowest coverage, I think.
But never loss of communication.
No. After we install Ripple 8 and the Celerway solutions, we haven't a second downtime at the payment terminal.
That's a good story. So this is how our solutions work in the real life. So from Norway, I will just say that we are continuing in calm water with very, very good communication on board. And thank you for your time.
Super. Thank you very much, guys. I hope it's getting warmer in Norway. So next we've got Ron from Boskalis coming on with a few more insights into their company, what their vessels do, how they operate, things like that, and covering their infrastructure as well. Boskalis, let's have a company overview, is the leading global services provider operating in dredging, maritime infrastructure and maritime services sector. The company provides creative and innovative all-round solutions to infrastructural challenges in the maritime sector. So Ron, I'll pass to yourself. Same again, the stage is yours.
Thank you very much, Ben, for the introduction, and welcome to all of you. I realize I'm bridging the gap between this show now and the conclusion of the seminar, but let's move it on. Let's share my screen and tell a bit more about Boskalis and how we're doing things. Let me see where the show is. Here we are. Can you see my screen, guys?
Yeah, Ron, clear.
Good.
Yeah, you're good to go.
Good to go. Thank you very much again. Thank you very much, Poynting, for allowing me to share a bit of the experience which we have at Boskalis with connectivity in general, and obviously with Poynting as well. So I think Ben already did have a good look at this slide before he introduced me. We are a leading global dredging and maritime offshore expert company we have as a vision creating new horizons. I think that tells most of the story already. Actively across the global, headquartered in Papendrecht, which is just a tiny town just east of Rotterdam in the Netherlands. So be welcome over there. And we're active in lots of countries. What are we doing? We're doing dredging, we're doing inland infrastructure, we're doing offshore energy, and obviously we're doing towage and salvage. I mean, I think you all remember the case that we saved the world, as a lot of people were saying, when we were releasing the Ever Given from the Suez Canal. That is also part of our energy, and that's part of our job, and that's what our salvage division is doing. But you can already imagine already from this story, because we have so many divisions, the scale of vessels and the size of the vessels is very different. I mean, if I look only at the dredging side, we're ranging from small works vessels up to hopper dredgers, cutter section dredgers, seabed intervention vessels, grab cranes, and all kind of other dredging equipment which we are using, and we're only partly owning that and actually managing that, as also we're using in joint ventures. And then we talk about offshore. It's even worse over there. So there's a high standardization of vessels. If you look at each of the type of vessels, obviously. So we're using a wide range of vessels across our divisions. Salvage in general have no own vessels. They're using mostly the offshore vessels from Boskalis, or they're chartering vessels. So they're not really included in this overview. But there's a big variety of vessels, for a wide range of vessels, which we are actually using. And as IT division within Boskalis, we need to deliver the infrastructure and the solutions for all these kind of vessels. So what we are using and what kind of connectivity are we using in maritime these days? Now, traditionally, of course, we were using the L-band solutions, whether it's on the one side the fleet broadband, or newer solutions, of course, the Iridium Certus network. That was quite, let's say, an old-fashioned solution, but still active and still working, very stable. Then we moved on to better and increased connectivity on geo satellites, as explained, for example, by Alexandra, the KU or KA band solutions. That has been the standard for quite a while on our vessels, along, of course, with 4G, which provides improved connectivity. But for, let's say, business purposes, the KU band solutions were, let's say, the main driver. Since last year, there has been quite a few of there's been a big disruption on the market, and all know that I'm talking about Starlink. And in the feed of that, also OneWeb has joined that party. They come onto the market. I mean, literally 1 year ago, I rolled out the first Starlink antenna on the Boskalis vessel. And within the next 6 months, most of the fleet of Boskalis has been provided with Starlink antennas. I mean, it went that quick. Success story of Starlink and also OneWeb is quite imperative in that respect. And I think we should be thankful, and at least on behalf of the crew, because that's a major change for them to use and now have almost home-like internet access on the vessels compared to the old days where they also had internet, but really slow in all respects, and high latency networks on board. But we're also looking at 5G. I mean, the world is changing. The telecom operators are moving forward as well. They have now introduced 5G, and that's what we need to look at as well. And that's even also very promising in terms of speed. So how does the infrastructure on our vessels look like? I mean, obviously, I need to provide a very generic overview. So we use connectivity carriers on our vessels, whether it's a GEO, LEO, 4G or 5G solution. most cases it's a geo solution then compared with Starlink or OneWeb or a combination of that. Also using a 4G solution on most of the vessels, and we have our IT infrastructure on the vessels outsourced to a service provider. And from there we provide business networks onto the vessel, and we provide crew Wi-Fi for our crew on board, but also for our customers on board. Next to that, we got our OT network provided and on the vessels these days. Through a solution provided by Fortinet, we can actually provide managed access for ship systems, either outside or provide support for those onboard systems. What are we using on board of our vessels? Really, obviously, the email system, plan maintenance system is very much in use. But you see, and COVID-19 has been a big game changer in that. Is that also Teams, MS Teams is being introduced as almost daily usage on board of vessels. And that's all quite fine if you're using 4G or 5G on the vessels. But when you're using that through, let's say, the geo-provided solutions, not really good through a VSAT unless you got an enormous big pipe. So that's something really which is giving some friction already. Obviously, we also have clients on, particularly on our offshore vessels, and they obviously they need in most cases fixed bandwidth to provide their own network and internet access. Also for projects, and we have of course the OT network, the OT systems on board of the vessels which we are using, and they all need internet access. They all need connectivity. So we cannot do with one solution. We're really looking now with the introduction of the likes of Starlink and OneWeb, and hopefully in 2 years' time, Kuipers or Amazon. We're really looking into possibilities to actually create this hybrid solution where everyone is buzzing about and see if we can change the IT infrastructure on board of our vessels. And how should that look like? I mean, really, we should have a redundant connectivity solution. So not only LEO, but also 5G. Whereas 4G? Network, are we going to move to the cloud? How much can we go to the cloud as a shipping company? What can we do? Do we need IT equipment on board? Can we do without? The whole introduction of SD-WAN, we started to use SD-WAN already on our vessels, but it needs to be further tuned, configured, and updated and enhanced to our needs. And obviously, continue to work on the OT network design. The challenges which we have in that is that LEO services, with all respect to Starlink and all respect to OneWeb, they're still quite new to the market and they're not mature yet. Alexandra already indicated that they need to have licensing and land traffic in each country. Starlink is known to have the service geofence in certain areas, which is really limiting our service and connectivity in those areas where we are operating. The next challenge which we have is that we still have our vessels currently equipped with 4G antennas, but we're noticing more and more vessels are complaining if they're using 4G, they're having difficulties logging on to networks because telecom operators seem to be upgrading their capacity to 5G. Rather than continue to leave 4G available. So there's a lot of changes which we still need to do. And with the whole introduction of LEO, obviously that has moved the question away a little bit from the 4G, but it still needs to be looked at in the coming years to replace 4G with 5G on the vessels, or maybe even other solutions which are coming up in the market in the next years. So in that respect, we are really looking forward to new solutions coming up and helping us to enhance the connectivity and create this hybrid and hyper network on board of our vessels and bring the cloud basically to the vessel. And with that, I would like to thank you for the small contribution which I would like to make to the seminar. And actually, what you see over here is, of course, one of our vessels. Operating in Yemen with the project Saver. And actually this vessel, the Endeavour, which you see on the right side, had the Ripple installation installed and using that there successfully together along with Leo solutions and other solutions. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much. Ben, back to you.
Brilliant, Ron. Thank you very much. We've got one question for you, which is, would you say that the reliability of Starlink outweighs the promised SLAs from OneWeb, or has Starlink performance been reliable enough?
It differs basically from region to region. In absolute terms, the speed of Starlink may be higher, but the service which is provided by OneWeb so far, what we have noticed on our vessels, it seems to be quite stable and seems to be quite comfortable for the crew on board. So that's actually working quite well.
Okay, and we've got one more. Do you expect a major shift from on-premises or on-board VS cloud or shore-based infrastructure?
Yeah, that's one of the questions which we are having as well ourselves at this moment. It's really the matter of how much data is still required to be on board and what can be stored or can be used in the cloud. And that's the question which we are investigating ourselves as well. So anyone who has the answer, that I think that person will be a key person in this maritime market. Because I think that a lot of shipping companies are actually looking for the answers on this question.
The $1 million question. Okay.
The $1 million question, absolutely.
Exactly. Like, literally.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much, Ron. Thank you very much for your insights.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so I'll just conclude, and then it's the end of the event. So, to wrap up and summarize what we've covered, there's a huge amount of innovation on the technology side of this space of the industry, but those actually present opportunity as well as further competition. It looks like things like reliability and pricing seem to be in charge for demand and right at the top of the list for customer concerns. So there's lots of innovation, lots of change, and very, very rapid progression. It's changing fast, but it's actually, as a service, it's improving so quickly that the approach seems to be keep up, keep innovating, and keep customer focused, and we should all be just fine. So to conclude the event, as you exit this, you'll have a survey. Please do fill that out. That would be really useful so we can put on further events. But thank you so much so far for the chat box feedback. That's super. And please do engage with some of our speakers. The best way to find them is on LinkedIn. Ask them questions, be in touch. And of course, you've got points of contact from Poynting, people like John. They'll be happy to answer any of your questions that you may have had throughout the event. Outside of that, it's now time for the coffee break, which we didn't really get round to. But thank you very, very much to Poynting for sponsoring the event. And that concludes the Maritime Connectivity Summit. Thank you, and bye for now.